you love.
Hey everybody, it's your girl Ho, and thank you for joining me For What It's Worth. Um, Tonight's show, like normally my show has a little bit of a comedic undertone to it. Tonight that's not going to be the case, but I feel like what I'm going to talk to y'all about tonight is very important. Um, so first things first, make sure you're following us on all the things. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at We Lit Network, on YouTube at We Lit Network, and on Facebook, the Facebook group at We Lit Network, on all of the things. So, I'm going to tell you guys what happened to me today. So, I planned to include the case about Gabby Petito in my opening, just to kind of talk about the things that happened this week. That's normally what I do. And I was looking at a post that was discussing her case, and it was comparing it to the Chris and Shanann Watts case. So I was just skimming through the comments like I always do. I kind of just glance at things. I never really read the comments too in depth. But as I was scrolling, a picture caught my eye of a young girl and her boyfriend, and the comment was from her mother, and she was saying that her daughter deserves justice too. She posted her birthday and her death date. And for some reason, I was drawn to this comment. Now, like, again, like when I'm scrolling, it's like a mad woman scroll. Like there's nothing that ever really catches my eye. Most of the time, I'm mindlessly scrolling just to waste time, or I do that thing that people do when you start scrolling and you just forget and you lose track of time. That's usually me. So I don't know why I stopped on this comment, because there were other ones with with pictures and things, but I was drawn to this comment for a reason. So I responded to it and said, "Hey, I'd like more information about your daughter's case. I'd like to mention her on my show tonight." And her mom responded to me. When her mother responded to me, she told me all of the details of the case. That as much as you could say in a comment. She gave me a timeline. She told me what happened, and I responded to her. And at this point, I read her comment in detail because I read every word. Every word was important to me. But then I went and saw her daughter's Facebook, because this is what I do. I will come across something, and then my nosy self will go look at everybody that's involved. That's just I don't know. People have weird social media habits. I guess that's mine. So I went to look at her daughter's profile. First, I looked at the hashtag, because the hashtag linked all of the posts that her family's been posting about the case. And then I went and read her profile. When I tell you guys that I was in tears, this beautiful young girl, her name is Promise Merriman. She was 21 years old. She passed away on July 19th of this year at her boyfriend's house. And the story surrounding it is what makes it both fishy and interesting. So I was scrolling through her pictures. This girl looked like she was the life of the party, the light up the room type of personality. And I don't know what it is, because I've never been that person that feels like super drawn to things. I am a spiritual person, but for some reason, it was almost like her pictures were asking me for help from her. And I think that's why I turned into a crying mess. I was crying all morning about it, and it was just something about this story that really hit home for me. Not only did it hit home for me, but it was like, as a parent, and I'm going to try to keep myself together tonight because this is really emotional for me. It was something about her mother's desperation for answers that I think I'm paused. Oh no. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. It was something about her mother's desperation for answers that drew me to it, but then seeing her pictures and kind of glancing through the surface social media part of her life, I felt like I needed to speak for her. Also, as I was researching her page and her story and trying to learn more about her, her friends began messaging me. I spoke to 4 maybe of her friends who reached out to me and just wanted to tell me how incredible of a person she was. Her mother told them that I was going to be talking about her story tonight, and they just wanted to express their gratitude and how much it means to the whole family and to all of her friends that I am putting this out there and giving it exposure. I said that my platform's not huge yet, but anything that I could do, I felt like I needed to do. So I'm going to tell you Promise's story tonight. I'm going to tell it to you from the perspective of her family and what her mother has told me. I did have some questions that I wanted to ask her mom before this started. She messaged me. They actually had a protest today down at the sheriff's department. So they went out and protested at 3:00 today. And she was just so exhausted. And she messaged me so when she got home and said, I'm really tired, but sorry it took me so long to get back to you. And I did want to clarify a couple of things with her, which I didn't get a chance to because she's tired, understandably. So there are some things that may be missing from this that I just wasn't too sure about. So if you are someone who loves her and you're watching this, forgive me if it's not included. I probably know about it, but I'm not 100% sure, and I don't want to give out bad information. So here's what I do know. Promise was in a relationship with a young man. I'm not even going to say his name because that's not what's important here. And they had a very, from the outside looking in, it looked volatile. So he had proven narcissistic behavior. It was very much so when she leaves the house, making her feel guilty for doing things that don't include him, making her check in and feel guilty for spending time with her family. I've seen text messages that were in her phone that her mother has shared where it was very obvious narcissistic behavior, very much so. Why are you doing these things? She's explaining she needed to do something with her family, and he's doing the guilt trip thing to try to make her come back, and all of those things that young dumb kids sometimes don't identify as narcissistic behavior because we've been there, right? We've been in those kinds of relationships, a lot of us. And when you're in them and you're that young and you don't have the information that you need to determine that that's the situation you're in, sometimes that's where you land, right? So her parents saw this. Her parents did not like him. They had a bad feeling about him. There were a lot of things that they were seeing that they didn't approve of, and they just didn't like him. Again, young, we know how that goes. Sometimes the parents just don't like the boyfriend. What stuck out to me is a month before Promise passed away, she and her mother had a text conversation where she said, she had just been in a car accident and her car was gone. It had been wrecked. And she said to her mother that she felt like a demon was following her. She felt like that she had bad energy around her and that a demon was following her. And she didn't know why. And then she chalked it up to that's life, I guess. A month later, almost to the day, was the day that she passed away. This was June 18th that these text messages happened. And literally almost a month to the day is when she passed away. Her mother was reassuring her in the text messages that she should just stay close to God, he'll protect her. And she agreed to that. And the conversation was kind of over from there. So this is what happened. Her family says that she had decided that she was going to leave her boyfriend. It was a very mixed conversation type of thing, but somehow she ended up going to his house. And the night that this happened, she was there with him. A video surfaced where she seemed to be not happy with his actions because he appeared to be visibly high. I don't know high on what. I didn't clarify that. But looking in the video, he does look under the influence of something, just like his eyes are very, he looks under the influence of something. I don't know what. But apparently this is not unusual behavior for him. But Promise didn't like it. And so she took a video of him. And this was the last video that was found in her phone. So the timeline that I received from her mom is that at midnight that night, she called her phone and it went directly to voicemail. She didn't answer. At 1:40, there was a call to the ambulances in the EMT that Promise was non-responsive. At 2:53, she was pronounced dead at the hospital. At 3:12, her parents were notified by the hospital that they needed to come right away, but they didn't give them a reason why. They just said, you need to come now. They get to the hospital and they're put in a room and told that the doctor and the chaplain will be coming to speak with them. And they do. And her mother explained to me by the time that they were in a room with her, she was very cold, very stiff, and it seemed that she had been gone for a while. Her mother says that she believes that she was gone long before the EMTs got there. So that's the timeline that I have. From the time her mom called her at midnight until 3:12 in the morning when her parents were notified that they needed to come to the hospital. Now, here's why it's fishy. The family was notified by the hospital that they needed to come by digging through Promise's charts and her records to get her mom's name as the emergency contact. The boyfriend never reached out. The mother whose house they were at never reached out. And Promise was sent to the hospital that was in another county that was the hospital that his mother and his sister worked at. Her family feels that that was shady. Also, Promise was sent to the hospital alone. The boyfriend did not go with her in the ambulance to the hospital because her parents were, or his mother didn't want him to arrive at the hospital with her. I don't know how that was verified, but this is what I'm told. So Promise went to the hospital alone in an ambulance, probably already deceased. When the family gets there, nobody's there. There's no mother, there's no boyfriend, nobody's there with her. She was there alone. The boyfriend told the EMTs that she didn't have anything. She didn't even have a drink that night, and that he hadn't given her anything. She hadn't taken anything. They don't know what happened. The next day, he recanted that story and said that he had, in fact, given her a fentanyl tablet. And according to her mother, Promise had recently had a cyst removed, a small minor surgery, and may have taken that for pain. So she's thinking that maybe he gave her this pill. She took it thinking it was pain medication, but in fact she was being poisoned and it was fentanyl. So the reason that this is fishy is that there's a lot of unknowns. They don't know how she ended up taking it. They don't know why he gave it to her. They don't know a lot. They don't know why she ended up at the hospital she ended up at, and nobody's talking. Apparently, her case was passed off to the wrong county, which delayed the investigation for over a month. Now you're thinking timeline-wise, this happened in July. Over a month puts it in August, and we're in September now. And currently, her family is still fighting for answers. The case is still open. There's still an investigation, but nobody's talking. Nobody's giving the family any information. The boyfriend's still not talking, but yeah, on the flip side of it, he's out running around, telling and bragging people about how his mom gets him out of trouble. There's just a lot going on with it. But at the end of the day, the family deserves to know what happened. It's not normal that a 21-year-old girl who's overall healthy, she's an athlete, would just drop dead at someone's home and nobody knows anything. So that's the mysterious part of this. And this is the part that the family's fighting for. They want answers and they deserve that. And Promise deserves that. And to this day, as I sit here, like I told you today, there was a protest at the sheriff's department because they're in South Carolina and they believe the sheriff department is dragging their feet. Nobody's talking to them. Nobody's giving them answers. They're not even telling them what's being done. So I challenge all of you to become familiar with her case. Spread the word. Use hashtag Justice for Promise to share her story. I'm challenging you all to become very familiar with this case. I'm asking you all to share her story. Her family deserves answers. She deserves answers. And I will share the story until I don't have a platform or a place to share it anymore. And I'll continue sharing it, even if I'm just talking to people word of mouth about it. It doesn't make sense why this happened, and the family needs answers. So I'm asking you to please become familiar with her case. The more we talk about it, the more we share it, the more pressure they're under to close it and get answers for her family and her friends. They all love her so much. She didn't deserve this. She should be here as a 21-year-old. She never even got to start her life. This is wrong. It's wrong. And for her mother to wonder and not have answers, and to feel like her daughter's killer has gotten away with it and nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody is pressuring the police to investigate. They're pressuring them, but their community is not big enough. They need more people behind them. I mean, the answers are going to be whatever they are, but they deserve them. So again, I'm asking you all, share her story. Hashtag justice for promise with no E. Her name does not have an E on the end, so that's not a typo. And her name is Promise Merriman. So please share her story. I will make a post in the Wheel It Network group. You can share that if you want. But the more we talk about it, the more pressure there is to solve her case. So I'm asking you all, join me in the effort to get her family answers, because they all deserve it. If you need anything from me, if you need more information, if you're looking for her Facebook or anything like that, spelling of her name, reach out to me, inbox me, leave me a comment, whatever, and I will guide you in the right direction to help. The more we share, the more people will know, the more pressure there is to get it solved. Her family is on the ground. Like I said, they just had a protest today at the sheriff's department, and they need our help. So I'm imploring you to please share her story using hashtag justice for promise. So that leads me to another topic.
H, what state is she in?
She's in South Carolina. She is in Spartan. The sheriff's department where they're protesting is Spartanburg, South Carolina. And I'll include that in the post as well. Okay, so this brings me to the original topic that I was going to talk about when I was discussing the Gabby Petito case. If you've been living under a rock for the past week, you probably missed the fact that everybody on planet Earth was looking for this young lady who went missing during a cross-country trip with her boyfriend in a converted van. And there were a lot of details around it. If you did miss it, you can find it on social media and catch up. But they found her body, and they have confirmed as of yesterday or today that it was her. This brought me to other women whose stories have not been shared as publicly. And there's this thing out there called missing white woman syndrome. A lot of times, missing white women get more coverage, and this is not my opinion. This is completely fact, and this is proven fact by one of the stories that I'm about to tell you. There's a missing white woman syndrome where this happens, a pretty young white woman goes missing, the whole nation's looking for her, everybody's in an uproar. I feel like part of Gabby's exposure has to do with the fact that she was doing this trip as a social media blog starter, so she was kind of building an audience already, and I feel like that fueled the fire, but that's not the reason that she got the coverage that she got. And I'm going to tell you about 3 other stories. This is purely about the coverage of missing people. Now, one of these people were found and they were totally fine. It's simply about the way that they're covered. And I'm bringing this to your attention so that you all pay attention to other cases and missing people who may not necessarily be on CNN, but may have been right in your backyard. So the first person I want to tell you about is Destiny Smothers. She went missing in November 2020 from a bowling alley in Queens. She was a 26-year-old mother of two, and she's originally from Troy, New York, which I'm from upstate New York. That's not that far from here, and I've literally never heard this story. 4 months after she went missing, her body was found in the trunk of an abandoned car. The story got some local headlines, but it was not national news. It never made national news. And there were murmurs for a little while, and then it went away, and her ex-boyfriend was determined to be the killer. He got arrested for murdering her. Now, this one in particular, being so close to home for me and me never have seen her face, stuck out to me, because there's no way that this woman should have been missing. And being from upstate New York, I'm sure she has family up here. I'm sure they were distraught about it. We have regional news coverage up here, and you would think maybe it was covered in her region, but you would think it would be covered in neighboring regions as well. Even though she went missing in New York City, usually the coverage goes back to families. I know it did for Gabby. It goes back to the family and where they're from, and they're talking about it, and everybody is on the lookout, especially if she's from a place. You would think when she's from a place that they would be going crazy if she's missing. Maybe she came back up this way from New York City, but I can promise you, I never saw her face before. She was found, her case was solved, but this is, again, purely about the lack of coverage that I'm talking about. This next one, Yanaya Carter. She was a 14-year-old girl who went missing in Atlanta the same day as a 17-year-old white girl went missing. She didn't get half of the coverage that the other girl got, and thankfully both of them were found safe. It was, I don't know how such uneven coverage even happened, being that it was the same day, but it was visibly noted that Yanaya's case wasn't getting half of the airtime. It came and it went. However, the other missing girl was heavily covered and in rotation. Again, I'm not making this up. These are all statistics and things that I found from the New York Post, and then I went and did my own research. And if you Google each and every one of these names and compare it to the coverage that Gabby Petito's case got, you will see the difference yourself. This last person, I feel like you guys are going to be shocked when you hear about. Again, I've never seen her face before. Her name is Lauren Cho. Lauren is a 30-year-old former New Jersey teacher, and wait till you hear these, I don't even want to say coincidental, because I don't feel like I guess it is coincidental. Wait until you hear the similarities in this case. So she's a 30-year-old former teacher from New Jersey. She went missing from Yucca Valley, California on June 28th of this year. She went missing. She was living there with her ex-boyfriend and went missing after their cross-country trip on a converted tour bus. She was last seen in Yucca Valley on June 28th. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never seen her face. And if you are familiar with the Gabby Petito case, this is almost exactly what happened. Gabby went missing during the trip. Lauren went missing directly after the trip. But again, I've never seen her face. I've never heard of her case. there was minimal to no coverage about it outside of the region where she disappeared. I even looked in New Jersey and there was almost no coverage of it there, but I did see it mentioned a couple of times. But this is just to show, and as you see, all of these women were not black. There was black, there was a Hispanic girl, and there was an Asian girl. None of them got the same coverage. And yes, Gabby's case was special. I don't want to say that because that word doesn't sound right, that it was special. It was a one of a kind case, I guess you could say. But these girls, Yanaya Carter went missing the same exact day as the other girl, and she did not get the same coverage. Lauren went missing almost under the exact same circumstances, except that it was not in the middle of her trip. I've never heard their names and I've never seen their faces. And I challenge you, like I always do, go look for this stuff yourself. And you will find there is a laundry list. Actually, in Chicago, there is they said dozens of young women of color who have gone missing, and there's no coverage of it. There are dozens of women in Washington, D.C. of color who've gone missing. Nobody's talking about it. There are protests happening that with people carrying signs, Black women's lives matter, and there's no coverage of it. And I'm simply saying that their stories deserve to be told too. They deserve justice too. They deserve to be found. And part of me in researching Promise's story and being told about it from her family and how amazing she was by her friends almost brought me to a new purpose, if that makes sense. As I was looking through her Facebook, and I felt compelled to speak for her and tell her story. It feels like something that I need to keep doing. So I don't know if this is going to be the platform for it, because again, the show had a different purpose, but maybe there will be something else that comes out of this. But there was so much that came out of this experience all in one day. This happened all today. I feel like I need to continue to do this, and I feel like I need to continue to understand these situations, and I need to be the voice sometimes for some of these families who don't have a platform. And I need to research more, and I need to understand what's going on and what's happening with these cases and why they're not being covered. I don't know if again, I'm a drop in the bucket. I don't know if I can affect this. I don't know if I can change this, but now I feel like the fuel is burning in me, and I need to know more, and I need to do more. This is not right. These families all deserve justice. They deserve their loved ones to be found. They deserve someone to pay for it. They deserve answers. And I feel like I need to do more to bring those stories to you guys. So I'm going to put a pin in that and come back to it. But this is going to be a short one. I had other things planned for tonight, and then this came about, and it just was so urgent to me that there was nothing else that I wanted to talk about. There was nothing else I could talk about after this landed on my plate, and after I heard the story and I heard the desperation from her mother, and her mother telling me that she feels alone sometimes because she doesn't know anybody where they live. And it's just, I don't know, it ruffled something inside of me. And I tell you that I don't even know how it happened. Again, I was crying all morning about this story, and I was crying because I was coming from the place of a mother. I was coming from the place of being outraged at how it's being handled, and I was coming from a place of needing to speak for these women who no one else is speaking for, or people are speaking for and no one's listening. It's not fair, it's not right, and I fully plan to keep doing this. And again, I challenge anybody who's listening to this, anybody within the reach of my voice, to also do the same thing. I will be coming to you. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I will also be coming to you, bringing you some of these stories and updating you. If anything, I am committed to Promise's case at this point. So I will come and I'll give you guys updates as things happen, because it's been 2 months. 2 months. I'm sure things will begin to happen and I will bring you guys updates. But I need your help too. I need you guys to be invested too. And I need you guys to share these stories. I need you guys to research them yourselves. I need you guys to share some of the stories that aren't being talked about. It's very, very important. So that is it for me tonight, you guys. Again, I will make a post explaining Promise's story, how to share, how you can help, as well as how you can help with some of these other cases where the women are missing, not being talked about, and ways that you can get involved with that as well. So next week, I will be here Wednesday night, same time, 9 o'clock. We will chop it up, do all the things that we normally do, but this was very important and it was urgent. So thank you guys for listening to me. I hope that I've compelled you to research this and educate yourself about it. And if one person does that, then my job is done. If one person changes it, my job is totally done and I'm okay with that. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. Again, follow us on all the things. Make sure you share Promise's story, hashtag justice for promise. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook at We Lit Network. And you can definitely catch me on the next one. Follow me on Instagram at Hellrell Baby, HELLRELLBAB, 2 Y's, BABYY. And I'm there all the time, or just message me on Facebook. You can catch me there too. So thank you guys. I will catch you guys next week. Have a good week.